How do you think about love? Do you think that falling in love is destiny, or do you think that love is an art? If you chose destiny, you probably think that love is unpredictable. It's a stroke of luck, and if it's meant to be, it'll just happen. But if you said that love is an art, then you see love as something that you can practice and get better at. By the end of this video, you're going to see love as something you can study and have discipline in the same way that an artist studies her art. My name is Lillian, and I'm here to help you navigate your love life and your sex life. If that turns you on, then like and subscribe. Here's the problem. No one studies love because no one thinks there's anything to learn about love. And that mindset is holding us back. Why do people think that love is something that doesn't require effort or growth? It boils down to 3 big reasons. First, most people think that the problem they're trying to solve is how to be loved instead of how to love. So the question becomes, how do I make myself lovable? And that's where the performance begins. Men chase money and power. Women focus on being beautiful, and everyone tries to have the biggest personalities and the best conversation skills so that they can win friends and influence people. So that in the end, becoming lovable is just a mixture of being popular and having sex appeal. And while that might get you noticed, it has nothing to do with true love. Second, we think of love as the problem of an object instead of a skill. People think that to love is easy, but finding someone to love is difficult. In traditional cultures, love isn't a spontaneous thing that leads to marriage. Marriage is arranged by your families and you learn to love your partner. But as time passed, we began wanting romantic love, where love comes first, then comes marriage, then comes the baby in the baby carriage. It's that freedom of choice that made us care more about the person instead of the skill. And today we only make it worse. Our entire culture is based on our appetite for buying something new. Our happiness comes from shopping and buying whatever object you can afford to buy. And we look at people the same way. An attractive man or an attractive woman are objects that we're after. Being attractive usually means having a nice package of qualities that are popular on the personality market, so that falling in love depends on what you can offer. The object of your affection should be desirable based on their value and should want you based on what you bring to the negotiation table. 2 people fall in love when they think they found the best object on the market or the best person on the personality market. In a culture where marketing is boss and money is king, human relationships are going to follow so that love follows the same pattern as the market. The third reason why we don't think there is anything to learn about love is because we're confused about the initial experience of falling in love and the permanent state of being in love. When 2 strangers become close, that closeness becomes one of the most exciting moments of their lives. At first, you were isolated and alone, and then suddenly you felt intimacy, and that is what you call love. The problem is, we mistake the thrill of infatuation for the depth of love. And when that thrill fades, we think the relationship is over. The attitude that love is easy is exactly why our relationships fail. And the only way to overcome that failure is to study the meaning of love. The first step you're going to take is becoming aware that love is an art, just like music and painting or medicine and engineering. Now, how do you learn an art? You divide it into 2 parts. First, you study the theory and then you begin to practice. Let's take medicine, for example. In order to know medicine, you have to learn facts about the body and all of its diseases. But that doesn't make you an expert. You only become an expert after a lot of practice, until eventually all of your knowledge and all of your experience are blended into one and they become intuition. So, first we're going to talk about the theory of love. We're going to talk about why we love, what love is, and who we should love. And then finally, we're going to practice how to love. So, why do we love? The answer is simple. We're lonely and we don't want to be alone. It goes back to the story of Adam and Eve. When they both ate the apple, they realized that they were naked and became ashamed of their bodies. But it wasn't the nudity that they were ashamed of. It was the awareness that they were different genders and that they were human, and that separated them from each other and from the animal kingdom, and from harmony with nature. And it's that separateness, that loneliness that men and women spend the rest of their lives trying to overcome. We even see it in native tribes where there is no separate word for human and earth because we are the earth. It's when we build civilizations and societies and try to separate ourselves from nature that we become separate from each other. And now we're all asking ourselves the same question. How do we overcome separateness and become one? We have sex. We find religion. We create art. We conform to society, because if we can conform to customs and rituals and rules, then we can be accepted into a group and we won't be alone. Becoming one with another is the driving force of human nature. It's what keeps the human race together. It forms tribes, family, society. But none of those things are the same as being in love. So, what is love? Today, we think of love as an activity. If someone tells you they love you, you probably won't believe them until they show you with their actions. People think you're active if you do business, study medicine, build a table, play a sport, work, because an action is doing something to achieve a goal. But you aren't taking into account the motivation behind the action. If a person is driven to work because of ambition or insecurity or greed, he isn't active, he is passive because he is a slave to his passions. On the other hand, a person who is sitting quietly and thinking is considered to be passive because he isn't doing anything, when in reality he is active in thought. Meditation is the highest activity there is because you're active in spirit, which is only possible because of inner freedom and independence. One concept of activity is using your energy to achieve a goal. The other concept of activity refers to willpower, regardless of anything external pressuring you. A person who is free to make their own choices is an active person. A person who is driven and motivated by things that she isn't even aware of is passive. So, envy, jealousy, ambition, greed, those are all passions, but love is an action because it's a personal choice. Falling in love is passive. Being in love is active. If you want love, you have to stop trying to find someone to fall in love with you, because that is passive. Instead, you should be giving love, which is active. Love is the act of giving and not receiving. An immature person thinks that giving is giving up something because they haven't matured past that marketing personality, which is based on being exploitative and hoarding your resources. They are willing to give, but only in exchange for something else. And if she doesn't receive something in return, she feels cheated. But for the mature lover, giving has an entirely different meaning. A giver is not narcissistic. They don't want to exploit others or keep everything for themselves. If you are afraid to give, then you are afraid to love, and we can see that in both sexes. Men don't want to pay for dinner or take you on a date, and women don't want to cook or act like a wife on a girlfriend budget. The very fact that you don't want to give to your partner or your relationship proves that you aren't mature enough to love. Now, dinners and dates aren't the most important part of giving. It's not about giving material things. So, what should you give to another person? You give the most precious things you have: your life, your joy, your interest, your understanding, your knowledge, your happiness, all of the experiences that make you feel alive. Because when you give your life, you enhance their life by making them feel alive. And you shouldn't expect anything in return but the happiness that they give you. Besides giving, love always has 4 basic elements: care, responsibility, respect, and knowledge. Think about this. When you say you love someone, isn't it obvious that you care for them? If a mother doesn't feed her baby, would we believe that she loves her baby? No. The same thing applies to pets or plants. If someone says, I love my flowers, but they never water them, we would side-eye them, because love isn't just a feeling, it's an act of concern for the life and growth of the people that you love. Now, here's where things get interesting, because care naturally leads to responsibility. And I know when you hear the word responsibility, you probably think of chores and bills and obligations, things that you have to do. But when it comes to love, responsibility is different because it's voluntary. It's you saying, honey, I know what you need, and I'm ready to respond to that. If you're a mother, it's going to be about your child's physical needs, like making sure they're clean and well fed. But when we're talking about love between adults, it's about the emotional needs, comforting each other when you're sad, listening to each other, partying together. Now, if you're not careful, letting a partner take responsibility for you can easily turn into abuse and manipulation. That's where the next ingredient comes in. Respect. Respect isn't about fear or being in awe of someone. It's not like putting them on a pedestal or bowing down to them. True respect is wanting the other person to grow and flourish exactly as they are. It's saying, I want you to become the very best version of you, not because it benefits me, but simply because that's what love is. It's literally the opposite of exploitation. If I really love you, I'm not trying to mold you into some version of you that fits my needs. Instead, I'm here to support you while you unfold into who you truly are. Now, you can't respect someone without knowing them. Respect isn't shallow. It has a foundation of understanding. Let's talk about what it means to know someone. You can know someone's favorite color or where they grew up, but that's basic information. Knowledge is about the need to go beyond me and you so that we can bridge the gap between us. There are 2 ways to know someone, and one of them is dark. The first way is about power. It's about controlling someone, making them do, feel, or think exactly what you want. It's turning your partner into an object that you possess. The extreme version of this is cruelty, hurting someone to force them to reveal their inner selves. It sounds twisted, but it's driven by this deep, desperate need to know. Even kids break their toys or tear the wings off of butterflies. They don't do it because they're bad. They do it because they want to know how things work. But that doesn't actually get you closer to understanding. In the end, all you've done is destroy the other person. Now, the other way to know someone is through love, which is about connection, not control. It's the active effort to understand another person in a way that no amount of thinking or analyzing ever could. It's not about picking them apart. It's about experiencing them fully. Now that we know what love is, let's talk about the people that we love. If you really want to learn how to love, you have to love everybody. Love isn't just about one specific person. Love is a vibe. It's how you relate to the entire world. If you claim to love one person but you don't care about anyone else, is that really love or is it attachment? A lot of people confuse love with this idea of finding the perfect person. Like, if you find the right person, everything will magically fall into place. But remember that love isn't about the other person. It's about you. It's a skill. It's a personality. It's a way of life. The right person is a myth. If you are a loving person, you will love the entire world. Sure, there are different kinds of love depending on who or what you're loving. The love you feel for your partner is different from the love you feel for a friend or a sibling. But the key is that love isn't limited to just one person. It's a way of being. You have to stop thinking about love as this magical thing that happens when the stars align with the one. Instead, we should see it as a daily practice that shapes how we connect with everyone and everything. Let's talk about the differences between universal love, true love, and self-love. What makes universal love so special is that it's inclusive. It's not reserved for one person or a small group. If you are a loving person, then you can't help but love everyone. Universal love comes from an understanding that beneath all of our differences, we share this something special, our humanity. Universal love is expansive and connects us to all humanity, but it doesn't limit itself to one person. If I love my sister, I love all of my sisters. But true love is about intense, passionate union with one other person. But even though true love is exclusive, it doesn't mean that you shut other people out of your heart. It just means that the connection you share with the one person is unique. Even when your relationship is monogamous, you still have universal love for others. True love is about connection, tenderness, and the ability to love someone fully without losing sight of the big picture. It's exclusive, yes, but it's also deeply connected to all forms of love because love, at its core, is never about isolation. Now, let's talk about self-love. The idea of self-love has been completely hijacked by consumer culture. Everywhere you look, someone's trying to sell you self-love. But self-love can't be bought because love cannot be bought. Because it's not about what you have, it's about who you are. First, to love yourself, you have to know yourself. Not the version of you that fits into labels like successful or attractive, but the real you. The one beneath all those roles and expectations. Getting to know yourself means stepping outside of the narrative that ties your worth to what you can achieve or what you can buy or what you look like. It's about asking the big questions. Who am I when no one's watching? What do I genuinely care about? What brings me joy, not because it's trendy, but because it feels true to who I am? Second, you need to know that loving yourself isn't about fixing yourself. It's about self-acceptance. Self-love is not about chasing some ideal version of yourself. It's about recognizing that you are okay even if you aren't perfect. This doesn't mean you stop growing or learning. It means you stop tying your self-worth to how much you can improve. You're not a project, you're a person. Next, you have to remember that self-love isn't passive, it's active. It's about caring for your physical, emotional, and intellectual well-being. Self-care isn't about aesthetic routines or what's trending on social media. It's about figuring out what you need and showing up for yourself in meaningful ways. Maybe that's going to the gym. Maybe it's spending time journaling. Maybe it's having deep, honest conversations with people who matter to you. The key is that these acts of care come from within and that they're not being dictated by trends. None of this is to say that you can't enjoy being a woman and playing with makeup and having luxurious spa days. But your worth shouldn't be based on the things that you buy for yourself. Find balance because love can't be bought. Alright, remember when we talked about the personality market? The idea that we're all trying to sell ourselves as the most attractive, desirable, or high-value option. Let's dig deeper into how this affects our relationships. Because honestly, the whole high-value thing isn't helping us, it's hurting us. If love is something only a mature person can experience, we have to think about the kind of culture that's shaping us into maturity. And right now, we live in a culture where human values are determined by the economy. Are you attractive enough, earning enough, doing enough? That's how we started measuring human worth. This mindset isn't just dehumanizing, it's anti-love. Our modern idea of love and marriage is shaped by business. Instead of seeing love as a connection, we've turned it into a transaction. It's like, I'll meet your needs if you meet mine. It turns marriage into teamwork, where the relationship is only about keeping things running smoothly, which can be nice, but when love is reduced to teamwork, it's not about two people knowing and supporting each other. It becomes a business deal. You should avoid fights, keep things pleasant, and function like co-workers at an office. But here's the problem. Yeah, you've become great teammates, but you remained strangers because you didn't build an emotional connection. Now, let's circle back to the high value idea. The reason that doesn't work is that it's built on the same transactional logic. A high-value man or a high-value woman is just someone who looks good on paper. But relationships aren't about resumes. They're about being intimate and vulnerable. The people who've molded themselves into perfect packages can't love. They can only exchange personality traits and hope for a fair deal. But that's not love. Real love isn't about finding someone who ticks all of the right boxes. It's about connecting with someone, not as a high-value person, but as a human being. And trust me, I get it. I'm a flesh and blood woman. I live in the real world. I know that inflation is up and tariffs are rising. It's hard to make it on your own. But using each other and hurting each other when you're all used up isn't going to make you any less lonely. Being high value is a trap. It reduces us to products and turns love into a transaction. You have to remember that love isn't about what you bring to the table. It's about who you are when you stop working. Instead of trying to be high value, you should focus on being authentic, on being vulnerable and open to connection. Because love isn't about value, it's about humanity. Well, we've talked about why we love, what love is, and who to love. Now we can talk about how to love. Love isn't just a feeling, it's an art. And like any art, it requires discipline, concentration, patience, and devotion. First, let's talk about discipline. Because you can't get good at anything if you only do it when you feel like it. It takes consistency. Sure, doing something occasionally might make for a cute hobby, but if you want to master it, you've got to show up day in and day out. Next is concentration. Our culture is all about distractions. We multitask like it's a badge of honor, scrolling social media while we're eating, listening to music, texting, all of it at once. But true love requires focus. It's about being fully present with someone, or even being present with yourself. Think about how hard it is to just meditate. People get restless and anxious, and that's because we're so used to noise and stimulation. But here's the thing, learning to sit with yourself is essential. Why? Because if you can't stand on your own, you'll lean on others in unhealthy ways. Love isn't about clinging to someone because you can't be alone. It's about choosing them while also standing strong in your own independence. So, how do you practice concentration? You start small. When you're alone, resist the urge to fill the silence. And when you're with someone, really listen to them. Not just waiting for your turn to talk, actually hearing them. Because being present isn't just good for love, it's good for your soul. Next, let's talk about patience. Here's the truth. If you're in a rush for results, you'll never learn the art of love, or any art for that matter. Our world is obsessed with speed. Faster cars, faster production, faster everything. But love doesn't work like that. It's slow, intentional, and requires you to let go of the idea that faster is better. Modern life might tell you that patience is a waste of time, but most people don't even know what to do with the time they save except kill it. Love isn't about quick fixes or instant gratification. It's about showing up even when it's slow and messy. And then there's devotion. If love isn't a priority for you, you're never going to master it. Love can't be an afterthought. It has to be something you're deeply committed to, like anything else worth pursuing. And then there's devotion. If love isn't a priority for you, you're never going to master it. Love can't be an afterthought. It has to be something you're deeply committed to, like anything else worth pursuing. Now, those traits are what you need to practice any art. But when you're practicing the art of love, you need humility, faith, and fairness. Let's break those down. First up, humility, which is the opposite of narcissism. When you're narcissistic, the only thing that feels real to you is yourself. Everything else is just a reflection of how it affects you. But humility is about stepping outside of yourself and seeing things and people as they really are, not just how they affect you. Let me give you an example. Say a woman calls her doctor and asks for an appointment that afternoon. The doctor says, "Sorry, I'm booked, but I can see you tomorrow." And the woman says, "But I just live 5 minutes away." She doesn't understand that it doesn't save him time, that the distance is short. She thinks that since she saves time, he saves time. The only reality to her is herself. She's not trying to be rude. She just genuinely can't see the situation from anyone's perspective but her own. And it's not just with strangers. Think about how many parents only see their kids in terms of how obedient they are, or how much pride they bring to the family. How many people project their own baggage onto their partners, like thinking your wife is bossy because your own unresolved issues with your mom makes you see any demand as a punishment. How many wives think their husbands are stupid because they don't live up to their childhood fantasy of a knight in shining armor? Humility means stepping back, letting go of your ego, and truly seeing people for who they are, not who you want them to be. The next trait you need to have is faith, because when you choose to love someone, you're taking a risk, putting your heart out there, and being willing to get hurt. There are no guarantees that they will love you back or treat you well, but that's what makes it so powerful. You give yourself completely in the hope that your love will produce love in the loved person. That takes an act of faith, and whoever is of little faith is also of little love. And finally, fairness. Love and fairness aren't the same. Fairness is about balance and respect, treating others how you'd want to be treated. It's rooted in equality, but it's also kind of detached. You can be fair without actually loving someone. When you add love to fairness, it goes beyond just respecting someone's rights. It's about feeling connected to them, responsible for them, and one with them. Fairness is great, but love pushes us beyond just being fair. It invites us to truly care. Love isn't just about feelings. It's about discipline, focus, patience, devotion, and a commitment to showing up fully for yourself and for others. It's a lifelong practice, but it's what makes life worth it. Everything I talked about in this video are for... Oh my god, I forgot the fucking book. I was just gonna go get it. Hold on, I'll be right back. Everything I talked about in this video are from my favorite book, The Art of Loving. This is my Bible. I've read it over and over again. It's only 120 pages, so it's small, but it contains a map for me to love you the best way that I can. If you want your own copy to keep in your purse, I highly suggest going to bookshop.org instead of Amazon. In a world where our time and attention are our most valuable assets, patience is expensive. So being able to shop with local bookstores is an inherently luxurious experience. And you may not be able to afford that luxury, and that's okay. There's no shame or guilt if you have to get it from Amazon, but that entire experience has a fast food taste to it. Yes, you get your package quickly and for less, but it also gives you a kind of yucky feeling like fast food. All of the love and romance and sensuality is completely taken out of the experience. But when you shop at a site like bookshop.org or when you shop locally, there's a sense of fulfillment because the transaction feels more like a relationship. You're taking care of the shop and the person at the other end, and they're taking care of you. And taking care of each other is the first step to practicing the love that you preach. I really hope you enjoyed this video because I enjoyed all of the work that went into making it. If you want to learn more about love and romance and sexuality and sensuality and femininity and feminism, then subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching. I love you. Goodbye.